Well, welcome everyone. So I'm Bruce Goldstein, and I'm Executive Director of the Transformations Community. And it's really great to have you here for this second workshop in our summer series on transformative AI tools and the future of our work. So in our first session about a month ago, we explored the ethical complexities of AI and sustainability transformations. And today, we're going to build on that by looking at how tools like Harmonica can help us reimagine what collaboration looks like in our work. So we're surfacing new possibilities and tensions and questions around how do you build trust? How do you foster participation and shared meaning making if you're using tools like Harmonica, AI tools as mediations between us and the communities and people we're serving. So I'm joined today by our project coordinator, Haley Fitzpatrick in Hawaii, and our three AI fellows, Ramaz Mohammed, Matthew Betlich, and Utkarsh Prajapati. Welcome our three fellows. They've been working with us for the last 4 months in creating this project. And so we're all going to guide you through today's activities. The idea is that this is going to be an interactive and generative space. So please feel free to use the Zoom chat throughout to share questions and ideas and reactions, and we'll drive them into the conversation as we go. So let's dive in. First, I want to tell you a little bit about the transformations community. So next slide. Here we go. So we're a global network of pracademics. We're practitioners and we're researchers, action researchers and reflective practitioners. We're working together to advance sustainability transformations. So we see this community as a space for collaboration and learning and experimentation together, as well as support in these dire times that we're in now, when there's so many attacks and cutbacks on sustainability work. So we see ourselves as a support community and also a community of practice where we generate and share and experiment with new ideas. We like to say that we're motivated by 4 T's. So that would be transdisciplinarity, translocalism, transformative learning, and what we call temperance. So we've been around since 2013, and we've hosted 6 international conferences. And we're excited to welcome some of you next week at our next conference in York, UK. And then August, we're having our big event in Johannesburg. Hope to see some of you there as well. If you could mute your mics on coming in, we'd appreciate it. And our partners in that conference are the Earth Systems Governance Network and Wits University. We're proud to be working with them. So next slide, please. So now that you have a sense of who we are, let's turn to the role of AI. So AI is increasingly shaping how we collaborate and co-create and make decisions. These are spaces that were once considered uniquely human, but are now colonized, if we can say that, use that term, by AI. Governments, nonprofits, academic institutions are beginning to use AI not just for question and answer, but in consultation, in mediating the interaction between different groups and individuals. So this raises really important questions that we want to consider here today. Whose voices are being amplified or ignored through these platforms? How do we guard against hidden biases in these black box technologies? Can we truly trust the consensus? If AI is helping us generate a consensus, can we trust that consensus that AI helps us generate? Or is it vulnerable to subtle and maybe not so subtle forms of manipulation? Next slide, please. So as these tools take on a larger role in how we collaborate and make decisions, we wanted to focus on some critical questions here today. So can these tools help us navigate complexity in our transformations work and build trust? Or might they undermine these relationships and shared understanding that make real transformation possible? Next slide. So at the transformations community, this collaboration and co-creation and co-design are at the heart of how we work. We're facilitators, strategists, researchers, co-designers, community connectors. Many of you may see yourselves in these terms and roles. So as we explore how AI fits into this work, we're focusing on key competencies that can help us engage these tools wisely. We feel like we need to be informed, experienced, wise users, exercising critical judgment and creativity and the kind of practical wisdom we bring to our work in the use of AI. So we want to get to this deeper question. How can we reimagine AI's role and not just accept it as it comes out of the box? How can it enhance trust building, sense making, complexity work? Or is it just going to get in the way? So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Haley, who will walk us through what we'll be exploring in today's session.
Great. Thank you so much, Bruce. Yeah, so today we're going to be diving into these questions using an innovative collaboration tool called Harmonica. And you can think of Harmonica as a kind of virtual facilitator, semi-structured interviewer, collective sense maker, all in one, really designed to help us kind of go into and uncover those deeper insights and synthesize diverse perspectives. So we thought, what better way to explore harmonica than through the voices of our community? A few weeks ago, we shared a survey through the registration email for this workshop, and your survey responses are directly shaping the outputs of this session. So thanks to everyone who did fill that out. We really are seeing this as a kind of reflexive use case. So the survey itself focused on understanding your perspectives on exciting AI applications, key ethical issues, areas where AI should not be used. And we received 19 responses, with AI being seen as both a powerful collaborator, but also a potential disruptor, raising concerns about its environmental impact, power imbalances, and that tension around replacing human connection and transformations processes. So we're going to dive into this deeper with our breakout room activities here shortly. But we won't be exploring harmonica alone. We have Scott Champlot and Silva Ferretti, as well as Harmonica's founder, Artem Zinganov, joining us today as a sounding board to kind of help us reflect on these ethical questions, risks, and transformative potential of AI in collaborative work. And so I'll hand it over to Scott and Silva to introduce yourselves a bit, give us a sense of where you're coming from and your connection to AI. And then Artem, we'd love for you to also introduce yourself and share a bit about what inspired you to create Harmonica. So I'll hand it over to Scott for you first.
Great, thank you. And I want to applaud this effort to get people together and be looking at this topic. I'm an evaluator. And I've been involved, and my graduate training is in geography. So I bring with me a kind of complex systems analysis to my work. But I've been involved with working with public, civic, and private organizations for the last 30 years in international development, helping them to make sense out of data that's being collected so they can apply that learning for sustainable solutions to social and environmental challenges. I've worked with the International Red Cross for over 15 years. I'm working now on consulting a lot with the climate investment funds, the adaptation fund, and different foundations. And so it's a mixed bucket of the clients and people that I'm working with. A lot of my work, particularly in international development and humanitarian relief, stresses meaningfully engaging local people in the what we call monitoring, evaluation, or M&E process. So it's done with them rather than to them. Generally, we find that the more people are involved in these processes, the more sustainable the solutions and learning coming from them will be. I'll stop that.
Great. Thanks so much, Scott. Over to you, Silva.
Very short, Silva, independent consultant, working a lot in evaluation, understood as learning in humanitarian development, civil society context, always with an interest to make things more participatory. And I find technology can be a great help if we use it creatively. And this is why I got interested in AI.
Wonderful. All right, over to you, Artem.
Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for inviting me. It's a great. I'm very excited to be here because this is the first time I was invited to a workshop like this. And by the way, my co-founder Harry is also here today. Hi, Harry. I think Haley asked me to share a few words about the inspiration behind harmonica, right?
Yes.
Well, I used to work in advertising, and then I worked in a music startup, and then I got involved in like product marketing and product strategy, and I was consulting some tech companies, and it didn't feel right. I wasn't feeling that it's like my purpose, or I'm inspired by that. And so I decided to, go abroad and learn something different. And I discovered amazing world of governance, and commons in particular was a big inspiration for me. I mean, Eleanor Ostrom's work, I think, is one of the most underrated. She's one of the most underrated thinkers of 20th century, and she was the first woman who ever won a Nobel Prize in economics for her research. And yeah, I'm glad to hear that, Bruce. She's like a real hero for me. And so from that, I wrote my master's thesis about cooperatives, how cooperatives are governed. And I was hired by a small online community in the UK. And by the way, that's where I met Harry. Both of us were on the core team of that community. And as its governance lead, I really struggled with something that's later I learned that it's called sense making. I didn't know that it's called sense making at the time, but I was really struggling with like surveys, workshops. Like I was trying to engage community members into like submitting proposals on the forum, discussing those proposals. Like we tried to formulate the purpose of the community, and I tried to facilitate some workshops for that. I was using Miro, which is one of the most popular collaborative tools, as you know. And I wasn't very successful at any of that. I really struggled. I really struggled to get contributions, ideas, opinions from the community. It was an online community, and it was distributed all around the world, and maybe that was part of the problem. But I wondered like how we could potentially use AI to address this problem, because ChatGPT came out during that time when I was working in that community, and so it was like a really like a big inspiration, I guess. There's just this generative AI thing, but primarily I wanted to help communities to like develop a theory of change or something like that. Some people think of it as collective intelligence. Some people think of it as sense making. I like all of those terms, and I think that AI can really help with that. But I'm also aware of the problems and like shortcomings of modern technology. So I don't know if we will have time to discuss it later today, but that's something that I really would love to discuss as well.
Yeah, we'll be diving in deeper in our reflection session after the breakout room. So yeah, we would love to hear more. Thank you so much. So yeah, we'll just go through the workshop agenda really quickly, and then I'll hand it over to Ramaz. So first we'll go through our demo of Harmonica. Then we'll go into breakout rooms. We'll get to interact with Harmonica's AI-assisted chat feature, and then we'll all reconvene back into the main Zoom room and have a discussion with our Tim, Silva, and Scott to hear kind of their insights and reflections. And then we'll go back into a small group sort of wrap up breakout room reflection just to, discuss a little bit about our main takeaways from today's session and the implications of AI and collaboration moving forward. So with that, I'll hand it off to Ramaz, and he'll be going through our demo.
Thank you, Haley. Screen. Can everyone see my screen? Okay, perfect.
Yep.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ramaz, and I'm going to walk you through Harmonica today. Simple features and the basics. As you've heard, Harmonica is an AI-powered facilitation tool designed. Am I sharing the right screen? Can you see Harmonica? Just checking.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. Some of you might have experienced Harmonica through the link shared in the registration email, and a lot of you contributed to this process by completing a short Harmonica session focused on the role of AI and transformative community work. What I'm about to show you is how to set up a session, how your responses were processed, and how you can engage with them in different ways. Harmonica itself poses itself as a collective sense-making or collective intelligence tool to synthesize diverse perspectives and make it easier to navigate complex ideas, especially when many voices are involved. That being said, this is the homepage. We'll share the link to the website via the chat, but I'm just going to go ahead and log in. So once logged in, this would be the dashboard, the project dashboard. For this session, for this workshop, we're going to create a new session. As you see here, this is the survey that we shared with you before. It has around 21 entries. At the time when Haley presented, we only have 19. So I'm glad to see that people have been responding since the session started. That's great. So in the dashboard, you can see all your sessions and projects. Projects are basically what you call is a collection of sessions. And I'm just going to go ahead and create a session now. And this is the session creation wizard where you have two options. One, you can just prompt the AI to create a session structure based on some of your objectives, like as it comes here, or you can select a template for if you want to run a theory of change exercise, if you want to do some action planning, policy proposal, etc. So what I'm going to do here is we have some information that's preset. We're using the same information that we used to create the session that was shared with you. We want to understand as a community how we should collectively perceive and approach the adoption of AI. Just go ahead and hit generate. So it then prompts you with some more questions to add some additional context to the session itself. Just go ahead and give it a title. This one's pretty important in terms of what you want to gather from participants. So I'm just going to go ahead and add some information there, like what kind of outcome, what kind of wisdom you wish to gain through the end of this exercise. Harmonica also has this unique feature. Of course, deliberation and collective sense-making requires people to view others' responses and build upon them. So it has the feature for cross-pollination where you can allow participants to build upon and see each other's responses. I'm just going to disable that for this session for the example. And in the end, any useful context for Harmonica to know. I'm just going to add in some context about the transformation community, just to massage the messaging that the chatbot uses. So I'm going to go ahead and click generate. It's going to take some time to take in all the input that we've shared. On one hand, we've shared the context, our objectives, and what we expect to gain out of the session. So what Harmonica is doing right now is putting them all together and coming up with a plan for what we would interpret as a semi-structured interview, which just wait, give it a couple of minutes. And when we get the set research plan or the interview plan, we would have some opportunities to edit it and make some changes and finalize it. Oh, perfect. So this is version 1 of the structure of the session that we want to have. It's a 4-step deliberation process for community members to share their perspectives on AI adoption. One thing you might notice is that it's not a really detailed research plan. It sticks to being concise, which is something that's almost missing in a lot of AI work. It just takes in information and just like outputs scores and scores of text. And it has some, what we have is some basic questions which have been abstracted from the information and the context we provided, from the objectives, from what we critically want to learn. In the screen, you can test it just to see how it works, or you can edit it. One nice thing is you have the opportunity to edit the session, again, based on natural language. You can suggest explicit changes, such as, okay, change question 2 to a certain thing, or like just say, I want to change it to a 3-step process. So it's going to take that information in, and it's going to change what is now a 4-step deliberation process in the members into 3 steps. And just give it a couple of seconds, 2 seconds. So this screen is basically for you, like, as an opportunity for you. And don't worry, you would be able to change parts of this. And now the model has taken the information that we've given it and just altered the session. I'm gonna go ahead and click next. In this screen, you can set if you need any definitive information from participants, as in name, email. You can choose them to make them mandatory, or like you can just choose to delete them. I'm just gonna skip through here to launch. And once you hit launch, the session is now live for people to use. You can copy, share via a QR code. You can send it to invites. I'm just going to open it on another screen. This is the landing page for the session. And once you get started, I'm just going to skip through the name because we did not set the name as required. So this is how an ideal session would look, where this is purely based on the preliminary information that we've given. We have more room for customization, but there's an introduction to the session, and then you have it starts with the questions in terms of the deliberation process. My favorite feature here is if I don't understand a question, I can just say I do not understand the question. And instead, in traditional surveys or semi-structured interviews, you would need to provide some context, and that's what Harmonica does. If you say you don't understand a question, it doesn't go through the next one. It simplifies the question. It provides some examples for you to understand. And in other cases where you might go on a tangent, Harmonica would respond to further narrow down on your query or bring you back on track based on your responses. So this is just a sample, and once you're done, you would hit finish, and the response would be stored. And a little bit more about the session itself. One cool feature that we have is to edit the prompt. Edit prompts are a way to customize deeply your interviewer, the part of the chatbot that asks the questions. You can add some traits, personality traits, what kind of facilitation you want it to do. It has guidelines, what kind of language you want. Do you want it to use emojis? No. Simple language, formal language, complex language, jargon filled. So you have the ability to customize, and you're basically building a character. You can, if you're able to describe yourself in certain words, you can add those words into this, and Harmonica, the interviewer, would take those traits and use that to generate the questions. And that's the facilitation part. You also have summary prompts where, in this case, the synthesizer, how you want for the AI to summarize these insights. You can provide a structure. You can say my research is more focused on amplifying voices of dissent. So that's how I expect the summary. I want insights that where you basically set the guidelines for summary. But once you that's how this works. I'm now going to go back to the project we had to see some of the responses and slowly transition us into our breakout rooms. So based on the 21 responses, what Harmonica does is from the summary prompt we provided, it synthesizes all the information here. If you see the language used here, like overall vibe and core questions, it's basically, we were toying around with the summary prompt and asked Harmonica to use like more reflexive language, and that's basically what's happened here. You have like it follows a basic structure of the summary of all the 20 responses, key insights and tensions, regenerative concerns, trust and relationship building, etc. So one cool feature here is ideally in cases where an AI generates a summary by itself based on some responses, you cannot always expect it to be a neutral player. Sometimes like AI might highlight or amplify more optimistic voices or specific languages. You have the opportunity now to prompt the corpus, all the responses with specific questions. Let's say like there are some sample questions here. I'm just going to ask what are the most interesting insights. So this is going to look into our response pool, and it brings up an insight as the role as a third opinion and collaborative processes, offering a neutral perspective. And what you can do is, since this is likely missing from the summary, you can add it to the result, where you can find it added to your custom insights, which then you can export and use in other software, using your research reports, etc. You also can upload custom knowledge. Let's say you're doing interviews by yourself and also using Harmonica. So you're doing both synchronous and asynchronous. You can upload the transcripts of your synchronous interviews that you've conducted and upload it to here to merge all the information together and like have it reflected in the summary right here. Well, that's about it for the demo itself. I'm going to slowly transition into the breakout rooms. So in your breakout rooms, you have the opportunity to explore the AI, this specific feature. We will be sharing a link to this public Harmonica session, and you will take some time to explore, ask some questions that you really think that go through the summary, ask some questions that you think that might have been missed by the summary. The kind of responses, like once you've done experimenting and you found some interesting answers, we're invited to share some reflections. But yeah, I'll just share the link to the breakout room. Haley, if I've missed anything.
Yeah, great. So I'm also putting here some instructions here just on the flow. We'll be spending the first 5 minutes or so just taking our time to read through the summary. And then we'll have around 5 minutes for you guys to play with the AI assisted chat and add those prompts and kind of see what comes out of that. And then we'll have a reflection time together where we'll reflect on the potential opportunities this feature brings, and then also, the challenges or risks or ethical issues that might arise. So I'm putting this here in the chat. It looks like I have too much text, so just bear with me 1 second while I do it in multiple things here. Okay. Great. So I've now created our breakout rooms, and this will go for about, perfect. We're right on time. So we'll come back at 4:50, so in about 20 minutes, and I'll be sending some broadcasts, 5 minutes, 1 minute before. All right, so please go ahead and go into your rooms. All right, welcome everyone back. Hopefully everyone had good discussions.
Yeah, welcome back, everyone. Yeah, that was intense. I think we learned about things on the fly, didn't we? About how this thing responds and how customizable is it in real time. I even asked it to give me responses in Spanish, and it did that right away. I was amazed.
Yeah.
Wow. Before we turn to our guest reflections, I'd like to hear from the takeaway, the reporter from each breakout room. Just share with us, based on what you heard, what surprised or struck you about using this tool, and what's the potential or risk in applying it to our work. So, if you have any reflections on those two topics, like what was an aha or an amazed or mind blowing moment, and also what's the potential or risk in applying it to your work, please share that with us. So let's see. Let's see. Haley, can you guide us through each room?
Yeah. So I was actually the note taker in our room. So I can just get us started. And yeah, we had some very interesting discussions. And first we talked a little bit about the practical applications, how we could see this tool as a complementary aspect to coding processes, to analyzing interview transcripts, all very helpful, useful aspects. But then we started to get into the more reflective aspect, and we're toggling between do we need AI for the process of collaboration, or do we need it for the output that comes from collaboration? Kind of seeing those two potential functions. So that was very interesting. We were also talking about a feature within a tool like Harmonica to kind of tweak a discussion or output later based on something that is more interpersonal, have that more humanistic lens. And then, we had the last thing that we did was we put in the title of our session, Can AI Build Trust and Hold Space, into the chat, and to see what came out of that. And it produced a more summarizing response rather than an analytical response. So we were discussing that in terms of, it's like the findings section of a research paper rather than the real discussion analytical part. So that was something we were discussing there. So I'll pass it over to breakout room number 2.
I was the note taker for breakout room number 2. If anyone still volunteers to talk, feel free to raise your hands. I'll leave the mic to you. We had 2 broad themes. One was on authenticity. How is people have identified chat fatigue, and people are getting bored of the chat interface and text. How might we mitigate this? Artem emphasized that voice is a potential. It's in the pipeline for Harmonica, but that is not the only way to do remedy authenticity in these kinds of situations. Another cool idea we thought process we wanted to pursue was the same session facilitated by Harmonica. If a human does it, and to compare between both the results, to see how Harmonica is dealing, just to see the differences between a human taking these notes and asking these questions, and Harmonica doing it. Is there any change in response, at least in terms of length, breadth, complexity, etc.? There was this issue of responder bias. That was highlighted. Live synthesis and transcribe was something that everyone identified would be cool to have for the future. One main concern as we wrapped up our session was how the system, which is purely based on data, makes implicit ethical decisions that only the human can make. And where do we draw the line between the machine and the man? And where's the connection between the person and the implicit ethical decision that people make? That's some of the discussions we had.
So great. Thanks, Ramaz. Maybe we hear from the last breakout room.
Vanya was our respondent.
Sure. Thank you. So I was the note taker of our session, and in the spirit of the session, what I did, I just put my notes on ChatGPT and asked it to generate some overall insights. So here are the responses. So there was some tension. There were insights about tensions between perceived objectivity of AI and its actual embeddedness in moral, epistemological, and technical frameworks. I could just go into the details because ChatGPT is not doing that for me. But basically, we discussed that concerns about validity of what knowledges does AI use to generate its outcomes. So, is it using exclusively what the participants responded, or is it using some outside knowledge, especially with regard to questions about are the concerns raised by participants valid? Then there were some questions about, are there inherent biases in what the AI is producing? So, Jim said that they noticed a bias towards corporate goals. Then Sanjay pointed out that there might be some biases regarding which actors' voices the AI is amplifying. Is it amplifying only the good actors or good participants, or what is it's not clear what it is doing with the bad participants. Then Derek expressed that he was really impressed with the insightful responses of AI, especially regard to some questions about if the participants were in a different scenario, if things were changed around. But he also expressed concerns with frequency-based responses. Responses were very verbose at times.
Great. Thank you so much. Great summary. So I'll hand it back over to Bruce, and we'll have a plenary reflection with Scott, Silva, and Artem now.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Haley. Yeah, thanks to everyone who shared that. So let's zoom out a bit. So to kind of deepen our dialogue, we've invited two experienced members of the transformation community you've already been introduced to reflect on what they've heard and what they've learned. So let's begin with Silva. Silva, so what do you think this Harmonica and tools like Harmonica are revealing about how AI is shaping the way we do our work, the kinds of sense-making work that we need to do to be effective as transformations practitioners and researchers? Are there, and when we think about that, what kind of ethical tensions or patterns stood out to you? What should we be paying attention to as we incorporate these tools more and more intrinsically and deeply into our work? Silva, over to you.
Unmute. For me, it's always the same tension I see coming when we use AI. When we engage with people, especially in the evaluation field, we sometimes are there to get the findings, okay? And sometimes with methodologies and so on that are about getting the findings in the hands of some experienced research and with tried and tested methods. So if we use those tools exactly as we would have used a researcher, an expert, and so on, we are actually not changing much, and it's becoming very, very dangerous because there is a belief somewhere that expert can give the right answer, and AI looks very much like one of these experts. Okay, so more and more, if we use those tools, and I promise I use them a lot all the time, but there is the risk that we say, hey guys, they got the great interview, they are analyzing it properly, the finding must be right. I think that this is an incredible danger because, of course, we lose control and we lose voice. And I think there is another way forward that is much more interesting. And to know that whatever are the findings, whatever are the ideas, what matters is not the end results, but is the process we are getting to them. So there is basically not in social conversation a real finding at any point, but there is a conversation with different voices and different perspectives. And this is where things become interesting. So yes, we can get tons of perspective from one of those tools, but the challenge is what perspective we want those tools to take. Okay, so they can ask questions in many different ways, and I've used similar tools, and we can ask, well, start from a feminist perspective, start from a transformational one. It just means that we need to enter any research process much more aware of what is our own perspective. And the same thing when we surface, because if we pretend that there is no perspective, then the machine wins, because the machine will always go for the mainstream one. But if we believe that we have different perspective and the same data need to be looked at from different perspective, well, then this is where it becomes interesting, because we can analyze at an incredible speed the same data set through different perspectives. We can bring other people to be critical about that and say, that's easy. This is the data set. Play with that. Start asking questions, but doing a little bit like we did today, to get the conversation. Now there were super smart good people in the group, so it was quite obvious to see limitations, see potential, and so on. But think about many participants to some process where the very reason why you bring them in a social change process or a transformational process is also to reveal more insight and understand the world better. If we use those tools to present results, we are failing them. But if we are using them to say, listen, we had a conversation, and the same conversation can be seen from many different perspectives. Let's play out. Let's understand how to better understand, and then they become incredibly important. So I really think that we need to see those tools as way to produce different interpretation and making them as part of the process. The moment they are just the interface among us and the result, and in between there are not people in the process, this is where, it's a disaster and AI will take over. But I can see there is a world of creative possibilities if only we take it.
Great. Thanks, Silva. Wow. I want to reflect on what you just said.
Mm-hmm.
It was really, well, actually, why don't I turn it over to you, Scott? So as those insights are incorporated into our understanding of AI, how do we turn around and be that reflective, thoughtful practitioner who is using these tools intentionally and actively in a way that is consistent with our principles? How do we evaluate whether we're doing that effectively? What do you think?
Great. I am off mute. I think when I think about the tensions there, I think one of the things that we need to realize is the tensions between the promise and the peril, if you want to call it, are not a problem that we're going to be solving, but it's going to be an ongoing dynamic that we're going to manage, because this AI is going to be evolving. If you look at technology from the printing press through the radio, through the TV, and disinformation and all of that, it's an ongoing mission. But I think fostering what we often call in my field evaluative thinking or critical thinking, and it can vary from baking in moments of structured reflection like this, dialogue circles, or after action reviews with specific interventions where you're using AI, ethical check-ins, maybe even having a help desk that people can tune into. But we don't want to silo the IA decision-making just to technologists. I think it's really important that we try to build a shared literacy across different roles, from facilitators, researchers, community members, what have you. I mean, some of the tensions that I think I hear are the biases, to use the bias term, like historical bias. How are the AI systems trained? Are they trained on existing data that might reproduce inequalities or dominant narratives, or status quo assumptions? The language bias, obviously, English, dominant language. And then also in a lot of my work, where you're working in quote unquote developing countries, is there a bias where it might bias people who can understand it or use it are those people that have access to that technology, which you might not always find from the very people that we're trying to target for assistance and that we need to engage with. Or even in developed, quote unquote, developed countries, people who are of a older generation that might not be using this as much, and it might not be as accessible. People who were BBC, born before computers, versus folks who are younger. Being an evaluator, I would like to focus a little bit on, I've given some thought on how do you evaluate this stuff. If I was hired to maybe work on something like that, I think it's really important that values drive what we measure. And instead of focusing on efficiency metrics, we ask, are we becoming more inclusive, or are conversations getting deeper, or how is this affecting power dynamics? And focusing a lot on relationships, not just results, the quality of dialogue, the participation, engagement, the emotional tone, if you want to call it that. And then being systems thinkers, because I think a lot of people involved in transformational change work have an inclination to understand or to grasp systems thinking. I think it's really important to look at the edges, not just if I'm evaluating AI and how it's being used, and let's say it's an intervention and it has a theory of change and it says we want to achieve X, Y, and Z. I want to be looking at not just those intended outcomes, but also probing for the unintended outcomes. And I think that's going to be really important. And then, and just lastly, again, being an evaluator, we often talk about triangulating our data sources. And I felt this came out in the little session I was just in on. It was also discussed how important it is to triangulate our methods. And if we are using AI, make sure that we combine that or mix that using other methods as well. So that's just a final reflection that I'll throw out there, and I'll stop there. I was told to keep it to about 3 minutes. So.
Perfect. Thanks, Scott. Lots of great ideas that we could pick up with as a community and potentially develop there, and identifying those sort of values-based evaluation criteria. It's a real food for thought. Thanks. So now we have the privilege and delight of having Artem and Harry here. So Artem, you worked with Harry, you're Harmonica's creator. So we'd love to hear your reflections on what have you heard and observed today. Does this feedback that we're giving you here resonate with your original intentions? Are there any insights you've had during this discussion that challenged your assumptions or sparked any new ideas that might inform the way you evolve Harmonica moving forward? So over to you, Artem.
Thank you, Bruce. Yeah, it's been incredibly thought-provoking and humbling to be here and listen to all of you guys. So I want to say that, we really want to build it as an open source tool. We want it to be as transparent as possible about the language models that we're using, and we want it to be self-hosted, so that you would be able to self-host it if you wanted to do so. But to me, the most important thing is that this is exactly what we are we want to co-design Harmonica with communities like this, because we really think it should be customizable. And we've made this first step with the system prompts that you can now edit. I think that's a really big step. Actually, now Harmonica can be much more flexible than it used to be. The next step for us would be to allow you to self-host it so that you would be able to use any language model that you want. If you want, you can use open source model that you are hosting locally, and nobody would ever see the data apart from yourself. So yeah, I guess my main point is that it's I wish we could keep in touch. And I wish some of you would help us to make better prompts for Harmonica, make better evals. And because we're not doing it for money, like, it's, we want it to be self-sustainable, but also we really wanted to, like, make the world a better place. And I think it's really valuable, the feedback that you are giving us. And I really wanted to continue this conversation. Maybe Harry wants to add something. I don't know.
Yeah, for sure. I'm actually going to share an image in the chat. Let's see. I think one of the things that's resonated most is this idea of this AI not being as good as a human. And I think like we made this kind of like mini little social ad, which we were going to share months back. And it was basically like our virtual facilitator is not as good as Eleanor, but it's better than no Eleanor. And I think like that's almost the principle, is like we are very much human first. We would prefer if you could get a real person to facilitate your discussions, to work with you, to help you to collaborate, for you to meet in person, for you to have video calls and see each other. That's like the number one. And when that is not possible, that you've got a backup that's better than a Google form. And right now it feels like those are the two things that are being decided between, is can we get a real human, or like some tool that's not quite as good and is so far from the mark. So I think we want to bridge that gap. We see the importance of humans as part of the process, driving the process. And if there's a way that AI can help people to understand others easier, to listen better, then I think that's such a huge win.
Wow. Thanks, Harry. Thanks, Artem. That's an amazing opportunity. And we'd love to take you up on that. We'd love to remain in conversation with you about our feedback on and how that might reflect the development of the tool. That is a gift, and we will follow up with you. So before we close today, let's take a step back and reflect on this discussion and our thoughts about what is your main takeaway. How has this changed how you think about using AI in collaborative settings? Are there new questions or possibilities that are emerging from you? We're in this tension. Should we know where these tools are so powerful, but how are they going to flatten or distort our relationships, or can we hold space meaningfully through these tools? So we want to put you in very small groups right now, so everyone has a chance to just share informally their reflection. And when we get back, we'll invite you to share a few ideas that might have come up in the Zoom chat, and we'll discuss a few of them as well. So let's go over to extremely small, like 2 or 3 people breakouts just for a little while. Yeah, so we just have a few minutes left. So we just wanted to hear a few kind of key insights that might have come out during these last discussions. We encourage you to put them down. And so everyone, open up your chat and maybe capture a few of the key insights that came out during that final discussion for you. And we're going to collect these, and we're going to share them with everyone afterwards. And we're going to sort of create a web presence for this discussion. So please share some of those, final ideas and insights that came out during this final conversation. And I also want to open it up. So if you could raise your hand, Haley will call on a few folks in 30 seconds or less. Just kind of share a short insight about what struck you, what surprised you, what new questions you're sitting with now. So anyone, feel free to raise your virtual hand, and Haley will call on you, in addition to the chat collection we're doing.
Yes, please, Andreas.
Yes, thanks. I have already raised this question about the ethical concern I have in this whole application. That's not specific to this tool, and I very appreciate that you are really introducing such tools in the sense that it's very also used as a tool for the transformation. But for me, the question about transformative learning and transformative thinking is mainly a personal thing. And we have a fundamental problem in this situation, because we create, like knowledge, what appears as a result from the artificial intelligence. But indeed, behind it is not a thinking and it's not a logic and there is no ethic. So the ethical principles which are very important and also raised with the tool, I'm not sure if it can really be maintained. Because I have the concern that there may be implicit this value dimension in the results, and we cannot reflect it because it's too complex. So how can we handle this question is really a big issue for me and remains a big issue.
I know, what a major challenge, opportunity, but also the dauntingness of it all. And I think that's true of transformations work in general. What we're trying to do is so ambitious, so long-term. I think this fits in well as yet another challenge that we're addressing as a community. So before we wrap up, I just wanted to ask, maybe by a show of hands, how many of you feel more open to using AI in collaborative work after this session? Let's just see what that might look like. Show of hands.
Mm-hmm. Me, definitely.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, I'm looking at about half. A little more than half. And how many of you are leaving with more concerns or questions than you came in to this meeting today with? Raise your hand if that's true. Both of these might be true.
It often is.
Yeah. That's great. Well, thanks, everyone. Well, this kind of mixed reaction is exactly what we're hoping to surface. This is complex terrain with no simple answers, and we're so happy to be exploring it with you. This has been a really thought-provoking conversation. I can't wait to run the transcript through AI, right? And so we're hoping you're leaving with new insights and questions about how AI can support rather than substitute for the work we do, to really be a tool alongside of us. Is that feasible? And how can we do it? The how is such a major part of what we do in the transformations community. It's not just the what or the why, but it's the how. So this is a live experiment. We're continuing to learn alongside you. Your reflections today will inform our next steps. We're going to be hosting 2 more workshops this summer. One's going to be on July 15th. We're going to be looking at an AI tool that focuses on research and publishing. So we're looking at these sort of key practices that we do as transformations practitioners and researchers. So this time, our next meeting is going to be looking at an AI tool a mind-blowing AI tool that reshapes potentially how we do research and publish. And then another one on August 15th about creative practice. So we want to sort of accumulate these different, a sense of how across the range of practice in our community, how AI is reshaping possibilities. So we'll send out invitations to that, and we'll hope you can join us again. So thank you all for being a part of this session. Your thoughtfulness and openness is deeply appreciated. It allows this, we really want to do this initiative alongside of you. So we'll share a survey in a few days or right away. We'll even run it through Harmonica possibly. And we want to gather your feedback on the session to get to improve as we go. So if you're interested in staying involved, obviously we've got you on our mailing list. If you have other ideas though about future sessions or tools you'd like to see us to pilot that you've encountered that you think would make a great case study, please drop a note either in chat right now or reach out to Haley directly or me. So we're really excited to continue to build this practice-grounded approach to engaging with the new possibilities of AI together. So thank you for being part of this, and Haley, thanks for your great facilitation, and thank you AI Fellows for your work in art. Harry, thank you for joining us, and we look forward to continuing and building a partnership with you too. We love the possibilities of doing that together. So thanks everyone, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you very much.
Thanks everyone. Bye-bye.
Pleasure to meet you all. Bye.